Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to express our gratitude to you and colleagues for organizing today's meeting as we mark the International Day of Protecting Children in Armed Conflict. We attach great importance to the activity of the Security Council to ease the fate of children and prevent crimes against them in the course of conflicts. We always support the activity of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on the issue of children in armed conflict, as well as the work of child protection advisors in peacekeeping missions. Child protection advisors, as today's discussion has shown, have a unique mandate and play an important role, working with all parties in the interests of children. This is why we are somewhat concerned about steps to dilute the important topic of the protection of children under the pretext of some kind of human rights consolidation. We believe that for effective efforts in this area, we need a targeted mandate and appropriate professional expertise. As far as humanitarian activity, there is a plethora of norms aimed at ensuring the protection in the course of armed conflict, which is provided for in existing international humanitarian laws. Now, over the past few years, the provisions of so-called soft law and various recommendations adopted outside of the UN, of course, perfectly entitled to exist. However, to attach too much importance to them, especially a determining role to these laws, is not a good idea. In the humanitarian context, we believe of particular importance to draw attention to the harmful policy of unilateral coercive measures against countries involved in conflict. As practice has shown, in particular, for example, in Syria, these kinds of sanctions become, in essence, measures of collective punishment, and without a doubt, aggravate the situation of civilians, first and foremost of children. We find confirmation of this point of view in the report of the Special Rapporteur of the United Nations on unilateral coercive measures. We call on immediately refraining from this damaging policy and to instead focus on constructive work in the name of children and their interests. Overall, in discussing humanitarian matters, especially those related to children, we need to refrain from a selective approach where, depending on the political interests, some situations are dramatized while others are hushed up. In conclusion, we'd like to in particular thank the representatives of the Central African Republic for their briefing on the steps and their participation in this event. We understand that the government of your country is having to work in very difficult conditions. We welcome the signature on the 6th of February in Bangui by the government of the country and the representatives of the main armed groups, a comprehensive agreement on peace and reconciliation in the CAR, which envisions the immediate stop of armed violence and the provision of unimpeded humanitarian access. We in Russia would like to reaffirm our readiness to work together constructively to ensure the proper protection of children in armed conflict. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.